Brad Mole is a husband, a father, a community leader, and a housing leader in Bluffton, and he's a native of Hampton County. Now, he wants to take his values growing up in Hampton County to Washington to become the next congressman for the First Congressional District as a GOP candidate. I speak exclusively with Brad for this edition of Quintin's Close-Ups. And if you haven't already, subscribe to my YouTube channel and download my free Quintin's Close-Ups app in your Apple or Google Play stores. And listen to this interview next week on iHeartRadio. Brad Mole, welcome to Quintin's Close-Ups.
Thank you, Quintin.
I appreciate it greatly. Obviously, you are a working man and a husband and a father, but also you are Bluffton's Housing and Neighborhood Service Administrator.
I am.
Who else is Brad right now these days?
So Quintin, Brad is, yes, as you mentioned, Housing and Neighborhood Services Administrator. I do work with the town of Bluffton, which is my daytime job. But of course, I am also running for congressman for the First Congressional District. Just to kind of give you a background on myself. So Brad Mole is, I was raised a preacher's kid down in Hampton County.
Right.
My dad still pastors in that area. Married to my wife Lolly for going on 18 years. We actually were at the duty station here. Our last duty station here was here in Goose Creek at the Naval Weapons Station. We have 4 kids. Actually, one of our kids was not too far from here. I remember as I was passing coming in, she was a patient at one point at the MUSC Children's Hospital. So Brad is a father, a husband, a congressional candidate, and a everyday working man that's trying to support his family, but yet still see the need for public service.
Public service. Yeah. Obviously, as you mentioned, you are a father and a husband and a working man and a First Congressional District candidate. Why Brad Mole? Why now for Congress?
Quintin, I feel as I was looking at the election earlier this year, probably around 6, 7, 8 months ago.
Sure.
Again, I grew up, Quintin, as a preacher's kid with that. In the Low Country, it means that you probably go to church with the elected officials, so I've been all my life, adult life, I've been working alongside local elected officials, and now I believe and I feel that within this election that a voice is needed for those in the Low Country who may not be well represented, and so I feel like my voice, and again being in the community, I feel that I've been a community leader, a bridge person. I've been a connector for so many years in the community. I believe that that's needed in Washington, D.C. Someone that can bridge, build relationships, work across the aisle to get things done. And so I feel, to answer your question, I feel like even though I know some of the other candidates that's in this race, hearing a few words that, they believe that the people need someone that can fight for them. I believe that the people of the Low Country need someone that can build bridges, build relationships in DC to get something done.
Yes. And I want to go back to your website, bradmoleforcongress.com. And in your biography, it reads this: Brad was inspired to run for office in 2020 to answer the call of leadership that's missing in Washington, D.C., and to bring the values of the Low Country to the capital of the country we share. How do you describe leadership right now in Washington?
I describe leadership right now in Washington, Quintin, as overall leadership that kind of serves their best interests.
Okay.
There are those that I do admire that's in DC now, elected officials who I believe are leading on behalf of the people that they're representing. I believe there's more that's needed. Again, that's why I decided to run for Congress, because I believe that I'm not trying to go so much as am going to change some things as I go, if I'm elected and go to DC. But I want to be able to partner more than start some things, but just to help continue some things, help lift some things. So I believe there's some people already doing some great things there, and I just want to be one of those that can actually help some things get done.
What are those things that you want to help continue, and what are those things you want to create?
Well, and I'm glad you asked that, Quinn. So again, my current position now, I've worked in affordable housing.
Sure.
I'm currently the assistant chairman of the Low Country Affordable Housing Coalition. So affordable housing is big. Is big on my list, top of my list of one of the issues that I want to help change, especially here in the Low Country, as I call it, the new Low Country, or the New South, to where there's an increase in rent, an increase in what people are paying per month. So that's one issue that I definitely want to bring change to. Again, I believe that there's already some legislation that's already in place to make sure that affordable housing nationwide and also locally is being provided. But again, I believe that my expertise can help.
A two-part question for you.
Mm-hmm.
And it might be a silly question, but I've asked a lot of people this in Quintin's close-ups. Is it affordable housing, or is it workforce housing, or attainable housing in your mind?
As we say in our circles, it's according to who you're asking.
Okay.
Yeah. But they all are needed. Attainable housing, affordable housing, workforce housing. No matter what name you put to it, all three are needed. Again, especially in our community. And something else I just want to say also that I believe is an issue is education. Making sure that the residents within the Low Country again have the proper education. Again, with a growing area. I believe that affordable housing is important, but I also believe that education is important so that we know exactly what needs to be taught, what our children needs to be taught, in order that they may be relevant to today's workforce.
Let me get back to housing.
Mm-hmm.
How did we get here with an issue of housing in your mind, particularly affordable housing?
Mm-hmm. I believe we've got here again, as with some of these communities, we didn't. Some of the communities in the Low Country, we years ago affect today. So we did not have. I don't feel like we had maybe the plan set in place. I believe that a lot of municipalities are working, are doing a great job at setting aside purchasing property, land for affordable housing.
Okay.
Again, these were not things I believe that was set in place 10, 15, 20 years ago, to where we had certain land, where municipality had certain property set aside for affordable housing. But again, I believe there's some public-private partnerships throughout the Low Country that's probably going to help alleviate some of the need for housing.
And let me get back to your webpage. You also said this quote: "To bring values of the Low Country to the capital of the country we share." What are those values right now that you want to take to Washington?
Quintin, those values are the values that I grew up with here in the Low Country. You probably know what I'm talking about. As I grew up in Hampton County, I would say that if there was a next door neighbor that needed, which many times our next door neighbor growing up as a kid would come over and ask for some sugar.
Sure.
You gave him some sugar.
Right.
And because there's going to be a time when you needed to go next door and borrow an egg.
Yeah.
And so I believe just, again, that type of feel of the Low Country. I believe that type of way of the Low Country where people help each other out, where people, no matter what may have went on between us, neighbors, 2 months ago, we still need each other. We still got to live beside each other. And so it's the same thing, I just think, on a larger scale with the Low Country, and also on a larger scale in DC, is just to realize and have that at the forefront of your mind, or for elected officials to have that at the forefront of their mind, that, hey, I may need to borrow an egg, you may need to borrow some sugar, because at the end of the day, no matter what differences we have, we're going to have to live together, and there's some things that our community need to get done.
How would you work with a Democrat on issues that are affecting the First Congressional District?
To be honest with you, I would do the same thing I'm doing now, again on a smaller scale. As I worked throughout the Low Country and some of my professional positions, I would say that I was for the lack of better words, I was the background singer of local government, which means I made sure that programs was being operated correctly, that is reaching the people who need the programs and the services, and connecting those people within the community, those organizations within the community who do some of the same services, and saying, hey, you're doing this and you're doing this as a nonprofit, but how can you connect together for a greater purpose, to maybe save some money on your administrative costs, but work together to bring about a change. Again, you're tackling, you're trying to assist some of the same people. My way of working with someone across the aisle, a Democratic elected official, is to, again, come back to those things that we can agree on, because I believe that there are more of those things that we do agree on, versus some of the things that we may not believe in or agree on.
And you also said this on your website, that is bradmoforcongress.com. You said this quote: Washington politicians have failed to solve problems and to give a voice to hardworking, struggling people in communities across South Carolina's 1st District. What problems have the current congressman failed to solve in your mind?
Again, one of the issues that's during the last election, one of the issues and again, of course, even now, one of the issues that's prevalent is offshore drilling.
Right.
Again, I agree, and I thank our leaders for stepping forward to make sure that our coastlines are protected. But I believe that there are some onshore issues that needs to be solved and needs to be recognized as well. Again, those are issues as far as economic opportunities.
Okay.
For example, those who are especially here in the Charleston area, in the Low Country, those who are in the gig economy, exactly. For example, that resident that's 2 or 3 blocks over, how do they? They're good, that Miss So-and-so is good at making cakes, but how does she actually get from being able to be good at making cakes to actually starting a business or making that a entrepreneurship, or how does she become profitable doing that, making that into a business? So I would like to make sure that those who would like to see themselves in a better economic opportunity or a better economic situation here in the Low Country, that make sure that those resources are available to them. And especially in our community here in the Low Country, one of the things I found out as being a community leader is those resources can be available, but exactly how do we get them to the people? And I think growing up as a preacher's kid, I'm able to. I've slept on quite a few church pews here in the Low Country and Charleston area. But I believe that gave me some relationships throughout the years with the faith-based community and with other nonprofits that we work with, to be able to work with them and actually go into these homes, actually work with those who need this information and these resources.
And if you were a congressman today, how would you bring those resources back to the 1st Congressional District?
I would work with, again, that's Quintin, I'm glad you asked that.
Okay.
Again, that's my goal, is to, as elected congressman, to find out what's the quickest way possible, what red tape is involved in those resources or funds coming back to the 1st Congressional District.
Sure.
Again, Quintin, I'm not the congressman that would go expecting that he or she had all the answers. But I'm the one to go to say that these things have been done before and done well by, I believe, my colleagues, and to say exactly how can we pattern that again, but let that flow again. In other words, let that pattern kind of be used for the First Congressional District.
And let me get to some developing news, obviously coming from Washington, and this is from FoxNews.com. It reads this: Pelosi calls for articles of impeachment against Trump. She says, quote, no choice but to act. Let me read a portion of that article. It reads this: House Speaker Nancy Pelosi announced Thursday that Democrats will proceed with articles of impeachment against President Trump, declaring that the president's conduct is, quote, leaves us no choice but to act, unquote. If you were a congressman right now working with, obviously, Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi, what choices would you propose to her versus impeachment?
Again, Quintin, I don't have the information that they have now, and not really saying exactly what should or should not be done at this point. I would say this: over the last 2 years, 4 years, however long Trump has since President Trump has been elected. Right. There are people, as I feel in the community are wondering, this is important, but what else are we working on? In other words, like you mentioned earlier, how do we get those resources and federal funds and back to the first district? Again, this is important, but my question is, what else are we working on together? Are we, we're talking about this impeachment and as far as both sides of the House, Republicans and Democrats. But the question I think that the residents and people of the Low Country have is, what else are you working on besides that? Is that all that we're going to focus on for 4 years or for 2 years or however long?
And I want to get to the other side to be fair, because the White House basically said this, quote, Nancy Pelosi should be, and the Democrats, quote, should be ashamed. Trump said, quote, the Democrats have done nothing but lead our country, Trump has done nothing but lead our country, resulting in a booming economy, more jobs, and a stronger military, to name just a few of his major accomplishments, that is. We look forward to a fair trial in the Senate. Let me break that down for you, because obviously they talk about President Trump leading the country as far as economy, more jobs, and a stronger military. If you become a congressman for the First Congressional District, how many jobs do you hope to bring back to the First Congressional District?
I would, again, Quintin, I couldn't give you an exact number now, but I would hope to bring as many as possible. I would hope to, again, I believe that I'm not going to just start something new, but I'm going to just help with what I believe my colleagues are already doing. So I believe that there's already some programs and initiatives already in place that I would help to bring those jobs back here to the Low Country. Again, I also believe as much as possible to bring the jobs back to the Low Country, and also those who would like to, start a business. Those who are wondering how they can go from here to there as far as having a talent and being able to start a business and doing that. That's something else that's again something I would also like to focus on as well.
And let me bring you back more to the First Congressional District and describe to me the following in one word: transportation.
Transportation, I would say, again, I believe that there's locally, again, I don't have all the information, but just by keeping up with the news over the last year or two, I know it has become an issue. It doesn't take long to call someone at 5:30 in the evening and maybe 6:30 in the evening on a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and find call someone in the Charleston area, Low Country, and then they tell you, hey, they're in traffic, or just stuck in traffic. So I do realize that it is an issue that's being worked on and to be resolved and to be improved. Transportation, I would say, again, just don't reinvent the wheel, but look at other communities, especially the Low Country, other communities that have experienced the growth that we are having now, and that will continue to have. But to see exactly how they handle their transportation issues, some of the best case studies out there. But again, that is important. Again, I believe it's a quality of life issues here in the Low Country. As I was thinking the other day, we value the quality of life that we have here in the Low Country, and it shouldn't be to where it takes someone getting off at 5 o'clock, not getting home until 7 o'clock. So I will work again as a congressman. I will work with other colleagues to see exactly how in the South Carolina's First Congressional District that transportation can be improved.
Let me expand on that, because I'm wondering, how do you describe quality of life to the average voter in the First Congressional District?
Quality of life to the average voter in the First Congressional District, again, is, I believe, someone like myself.
Okay.
Is insane to them, being able to be sustained where you're at, having a job that's taking care of your family. Quality life also means to them, outside of that, how can I go how can I go from here to there? Because my goal is not just to always stay here in the company or to always stay here, but how can I go from here to there? Maybe I need some more education. So again, that quality of life, or being able to upwardly move financially, I think is huge here in the Low Country.
And you talk about financially. Let me talk to you about healthcare.
Mm-hmm.
What is that future like in your mind, in your vision?
Healthcare. I know it's not. I know it's not a universal healthcare in the sense of what's been talked about in the news. Some of those programs would take our budget and increase our budget enormously. But healthcare. Again, I believe that there's some initiatives already in place as far as medical. As far as medical costs, and as far as the cost of medicine. So again, healthcare is one of those areas that I would like to look more into and see how it can be improved.
Brad Moe, thank you so much for your time, and again, welcome to Quintin's Close-Ups.
Hey, thank you, Quintin.
You're welcome.
Yes,
yes, sir.